We here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. Welcome in. How's it going today, Brad?
Good morrow to you, sir. It's going quite lovely here in the tiny dale of Lynchburg. How are you, Robbie? I don't feel like I ask you how you are enough.
Hey, doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. We are officially in summer. I'm like starting to feel that humidity difference, that temperature difference when you step outside, and it's nice and just like soupy feeling. You know what I'm saying? Where you're in the South and you're worst
descriptor.
Humidity is something, but it's the worst, but so accurate. Is it not?
Yeah.
Like you're feeling this. Like, for instance, I went to take Leo out for, I've been trying to, be a better, like, okay, I've got to get him used to being around other people, but also I've got to get used to, like, parenting doesn't mean I have to, like, seclude myself for a certain amount of time. Like, I got to get used to, okay, let's just throw him in the car and go somewhere. Let's do that. So we've been going to the library and we've been going to local card shops. That's been hard to, think. So I'm going to throw him in the car yesterday. And then
you're like, I shouldn't throw my baby, and then you put him in the car.
Yeah. Well, I did first, but then I caught him, and then it's like a little. He loves it. You toss him up in the air. Yeah. So, and then I went to put the stroller in the car, and just transferring the stroller from the garage to the outside, it like the metalness of the stroller instantly was just wet, and I was like, this is not good. So. Yeah, that's where we're at weather-wise, and I'll say this: it's been fun. I put a video out on my channel, Tuesday, and it was about worst shot doubles.
Okay,
Brad, it's one of the most real rounds I've put out there, because imagine that you're playing worst shot doubles with yourself, by yourself, while also like trying to somewhat move at a decent pace because you don't have like the most time to film. So you're a little hurried. Yeah, like everything, it was just not a good recipe for success is probably the best way to put it. But I just end up like getting really real. And my backhand, I've been working on my backhand a lot, but we started making some big positive strides.
I noticed that in one of your videos, by the way. I could tell you've been working on it.
Dude, I think my form looks like so much cleaner, and I think it looks vastly different than it was before.
That's what caught my eye. I was like, wait, his form looks so different.
Yeah, like it's much more. It's funny. It's a la like I think I look closer to like what Connor used to look like.
I would
like it's much more like out and around. So I was making strides, had a bad day, but also because of working with like we now have 2 people editing my videos. I am a little bit more ahead so that they both have, because one of them has been on vacation. So I'm like 2 to 3 weeks out from filming. So everyone's watching this video and they're like, oh, dude, I'm sorry you're in the middle of it. I'm like, you know what? I was 3 weeks ago. So it's been really fun. So I'm hoping that for, in the bag listeners, you'll feel this. We're in June, so it's Creator Challenge Month. And I'm really putting like my nose to the grindstone, trying to work and improve. And so unfortunately the weather is just not really cooperating with us to like have many throw sessions. So I'm going to end up with a lot of garage throw sessions this week, but it's been fun. We hit 64.2 on the tech disc.
Ooh, nice.
Back to back yesterday. And one of those throws, ended up, according to tech disc at like 458.
That's what I'm talking about. So congratulations.
Let's go. Yeah. So that's a long answer to say we're cooking. We're doing really good over here, and just excited for Creator Challenge, and hopefully we don't embarrass ourselves out there. And if we do, hey, it's for the content.
Yeah. Hey,
we'll
it's so funny. Just really quick, while you said cook, I wanted to point out. I meant to point this out last week because I mean I have younger kids obviously, but I have a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old, so they're into the lingo these days, and it was just so funny. Like every once in a while when I was teaching the elementary school a couple weeks ago, I would just like throw in one of their words, and like I kid you not, every time I did, they all like stopped and looked at me and smiled like, you speak our language. because there's this one kid, he had a good throw, and like, you know, I was at a group of like 10 or 12 trying to play one hole at a time. It was like wrangling all of them. And I was like, chat, let him cook. And they all like stopped and looked at me and smiled and started laughing. They're like, Mr. Jones, you know what that means? And I'm like, yes. I said, I have kids. So anyway, I wanted to share that moment because nothing makes you feel older, but also cooler than that kind of moment. So.
Oh, for sure. That's when I knew I had been out of the youth ministry lingo for a little while, when people started dropping like the word that 100% made me feel like, oof, I am disconnected. Riz.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I don't think that I have a proper grasp of the word Riz and what it actually means or how to use it. And I feel like if I tried to, I would embarrass myself. So therefore,
hit him with the 100 aura, Robbie. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to hit him with. Anyway, before we get made fun of, let's make fun of some other people, shall we?
Yeah. So we listened, saw the comments, and so we're gonna try doing. We're gonna do 2 like speed in the bag type deals. And the way I think we should tackle this, Brad, is we're gonna pull up in the bags and we want to take a look at what they like, a highlight, and where you would identify a problem and what you would fix. So we can sort of bounce back and forth between them and do like, if we want to both do highlights, then both identify a problem. And just that way it's not like, okay, you're on for 6 minutes. Okay. I think the audio perspective would be, I think the audience would appreciate it a little more. But the other thing is that, so we're going to pick one from the comments of the previous video, and then we're going to pick one at random. So the way we're going to pick the one at random is that for how I'm looking at Disc RPM, there's 10 bags on every page, and we have 193 pages worth of bags. So I'm going to pick a number between 1 and 10, and I'm going to go ahead and go with 4. Now, Brad, I want you to pick a number between 1 and 193.
Okay. I want to be nice and say 27. 27 and 8 is what I'm going to pick.
Okay. So, well, we only need one because one of them you're picking from the comments. Brad's going to pick a name from the previous comments, a username from the previous comments. So I know that sounds like wacky.
I'm saying the 8th bag on that
hey,
page, Robbie.
Oh, no. I see. That's why I picked my number.
Oh, I see.
We're going the 4th bag on page 27.
Okay, I like that.
You see what I'm doing? That's how we're picking together, and I pick it before I can like see the page. That way I don't. Oh, that bag looks interesting on that page. Completely random. So we're gonna go to that one, but before we go to that page, Brad has picked Elaine Robert. And so we've got his bag pulled up, and we'll go ahead and have a Sci Guy pull it up on the screen as well for you who are watching on YouTube. And let's dive in. We are still going to answer questions. So the people who are like, oh, no, this wasn't what I'm here for, and I like the new format. We're going to do both. Porque no lo sabes.
For the OGs.
So, yeah, Brad, if you want to go ahead and start, take a look at Elaine's bag, Alan's bag. Elaine, I think Elaine is probably the right way.
I wonder if it's Robert Elaine, like Elaine's being the last name, Robert being the first name.
Oh,
and if your name's Elaine, I mean, I have a friend named Ashley who is a male. I think it just doesn't matter. But okay, so let's look at your back. I think definitely a highlight here. I just first glance on the chart, it looks like, I mean, you have a pretty good. It looks like a pretty good theory going on. Like you have nice spacing between your discs. I don't think you have a lot of crowded areas. Maybe one area, which I'll probably talk about as like a recommendation, but overall it looks like you have a good strategy. I mean, you're both a glitch guy and a berg guy, so that, I mean, I can tell you you like to have fun, so that's a good thing. Looks like your PA3 putter as well. So you have an Envy, which you have an Envy and a Zone in your bag. What else do you really need? And a Hex. So you're cooking right there. I like that you have an overstable approach happening. I like that you have the Soul over on the understable side for like that mid-range. Soul's almost a putter. Let's just call it what it is. Like it's very putter-like, but I like that. Hex and Fuse. I think the maybe clogged up area is going to be the Hex and Fuse Crave Sting. And let me look in the comments again, Robbie. I forgot. I think he said how far he throws. 325 backhand, 225 forehand. So I would say he's MA1, but I say distance-wise, I'm going to call you Robert. Distance-wise, Robert, I think that we're probably pretty, I mean, would you say probably pretty accurate, Robbie? 325 backhand, 225 forehand. I would say that's pretty accurate for me.
Yeah.
So when I get up to that 7-speed, I guess it's no different than me having an E-Dug, though, right? A Hex and a Crave. But I will say the reason I jump up to, and I find less and less I'm leaning on my FD. I'm using my FDs more for like turning shots, and then my E-Dug for like straight to overstable shots. So, but if I need like a really long straight shot, I'm going to stay with my Hex, because I can hit it hard and it will just kind of stay, and it will just have that very mid-range clean flight. And then you have the Sting, 2 Craves and a Sting. I'm guessing your Sting's a little beat in. It kind of looks like it in the picture, so it's probably a little flippier than I'd anticipate. So I would just, we can't ask people these questions, right? But I'd be curious why you have like 2 Craves there, and then, I mean, you kind of have like this big cavern here on the overstable 7-speed. You do have T-Bird 3. So I don't know. I feel like you're missing like some sort of like, I don't know. Maybe that's the T-Bird 3 for you. I don't know. I just feel like this area is a little clogged, Robbie. I'm not really sure what to recommend there. I don't know if you've thrown an E-Dug there, or like a C-Line FD, maybe something that is a little bit more 7-speed like. Seems like you like 7 speeds and then 9 speeds and then, kind of that stacking. So I don't know. I'd maybe look at maybe like a 7502. I know you have the T-Bird 3, but like I'd be curious why the T-Bird 3, not a regular T-Bird or a Grackle or E-Dug or something like that. That'll give you some more distance, but not have that 8-speed rim. And I think the other small area would be understable, like 9-speed. And again, I don't know if this like teal wave is like your understable go-to distance disc.
Yeah, it is 161 grams.
Oh, that's
fission.
true. Okay, I didn't see the 161. So that's probably
that one caught me for a loop as well. I bet that it does not fly like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I think overall it's a pretty balanced bag. I don't have a lot of like critique for it, honestly. I would just say I would just be curious to ask why did we jump to 8-speed and not stay with this 7-speed option like the normal T-Bird? Do you find it not as overstable and you like the T-Bird 3 for a little bit more stability before you get to like a Firebird type disc? So that's kind of my observation. I'm not even going to call it a recommendation, Robbie. My observation or my questions from your bag. But on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give your bag 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10.
Okay. I think it's a good number. Looking at it, I think a lot of the same highlights. I like your putter setup. I think your putter setup is really nice. The proxy, I think I would love to see. You have this PA3 that's base, but then you have a premium proxy in plasma, and I'm not enough of a gyronaut to know, because there's certain molds that like if it's in plasma, it's the most it's more overstable than the Eclipse. But then there's other molds where if it's in plasma, it's like flippier than base. So
the flippiest Envy I've ever had in premium
enough.
Plastic was a plasma Envy.
Yeah. So that's where it's like, I just don't know, because I know that I've heard other discs. I've heard other discs are the exact opposite. So with a plasma proxy and a beat in PA3, I'm wondering if the PA3s are what you putt with. So, I mean, that could, yeah, I would think. But maybe I'm a lunatic, but in my disc RPM, I always put like 2 in that slot, just because, like, even though it's the same spot, it does the same thing. Like, it just like denotes, okay, that's my putting putter. So, so I just think that's a fascinating one. I like the glitch. Yeah, the putters, I like your putter lineup. I don't know that I would need a proxy up to a sole if the proxy's in that premium plastic. So I want to know the difference between the proxy and the Envy, both being in premium plastic there. We're using that. You have 2 zones in the bag. So like if the Envy does have a little bit of hook to it, why do we have 2 zones in the bag, like the Crystal Flex and the Z? because I'd imagine that Bearheart one looks like it's older, so it's probably a little straighter. So that's running into the NV type slot. So yeah, I think that your putter slots are like, I like where your head's going in that direction. It seems pretty clogged to me, just on the decision making. But once again, those short shots, you may have those dialed in. I would say where I would want to see the biggest difference is where Brad identified as well, but I want to go a different direction rather than going in the 7-speed, because he has this neutron crave in there. There's a chance that neutron crave actually flies overstable for you at 300 feet. Like, I don't think you're getting like the most straight flights out of it. I'd imagine that fission crave probably flies more like the flight numbers that you would expect out of a crave. If not, maybe a little turn to them, because if you have this lightweight wave that's also fission, maybe on these fission lightweight discs, you're like, that's how you crank on Annie to get some turn out of it. So as much as it breaks my heart, I would imagine if that fission crave is straight to a little turn, then the sting may also like be closer to that. So what I would want to see is, rather than the fission crave and the sting being so close to each other, I might take out the sting. And once again, it hurts my soul to say that. I might take out the sting and put in like an ozone. And just have like a more extreme understable option. So that way you can kind of sort of start to separate the line between your craves. And that way it's like there's a pretty hard jump. You go Firebird over to T-Bird 3, over to Blue Crave, the Neutron Crave, over to Flippy Crave, over to Ozone. Like, that just spaces that middle spot out. And I think that's where the confusion is right now, is because, like, yeah, if you put in you have a straight hole for 300 feet that has you need to move like 10 to 15 feet off your line.
Yeah.
What disc are you throwing there? That's tough. So, so that's a quick look at that bag. And then our other bag, Brad, if you want to go ahead and, what would I rate that bag? I'm going to go a little harsher than Brad. I'm going to go a 7 out of 10. Just because I think there's a lot of discs in here. And I like the attempt at mold minimalization. I think that mold minimalization in the like middle to upper part of the bag may actually be causing some confusion. Okay. Because it's mold minimalization, but then there's other molds that are like really close to it as well. So 7 out of 10. Coulon, Coulon. Coulon. And I will go ahead and take a look at Coulon's back. He throws 250 to 300 backhand. And I'm writing down for our 1750. So Coulon throws 250 to 300 on a backhand, less than 100 on a forehand. So immediately looking at Coulon's bag, you got a lot of fast discs in here. For throwing under 300 feet on average, you got a lot of fast discs in here. You have, 10 speed and faster. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 discs. And that's just a lot. So I think that like I would immediately thin that number down. I would say you have trails and H3 V2. That would be fine. Maybe keep one of the surges. Maybe keep the Wraith. Like, everything else, trim it out. And I'm not even saying that, now you need to go add other discs in the slower speeds. I think just trim them out. Get rid of them and make those options a little lighter. I love the H7s. I think that's a great inclusion in the bag. And then the Genius is just a slower H7, which is really cool. The Rolo. I like this understable slide you got going down. I like how the middle of your bag kind of stacks up. You got River, Polaris, Hex. Maybe don't need the Polaris, but also if you're bagging a Polaris, anyone that's bagging Millennium, you're a real one. I don't think people, like Millennium, Brad, I could be wrong on this, but like I feel like Millennium, you either found it in a used bin and now it is like your favorite disc of all time, or like you've been playing for 75 years. Like you are an OG. I feel like there is no middle ground.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. You either know about it or you accidentally found out about it. And I think they have a lot of really great discs, and I think that's sad that they're not in more people's bags.
Yeah. So that's my initial read. And then if I were to give a initial rating, this one, I'm going to go 5 out of 10, just because I think that the bag has really good principles. I'm just not sure that to me, Kulan, it feels like you are halfway between watching pro in the bags and trying to embrace what they're doing, but it hasn't quite matched where your arm speed's at currently.
Yeah, I'm going to go 6 out of 10. I guess it's now. I mean, my ratings are like 1 point.
Brad's just more positive than me.
Well,
guys.
I just feel the pain. You've been doing this a lot longer than I have, and I'm doing that. If I gave like 7 speed and down, I'm giving you an 8 out of 10. 8 speed and up, I'm giving you like 4 out of 10. So like that's kind of where my average is coming in. Yeah, I think I've been there. I've been in this like 10, 11 speed confusion. Like, hey, I know I shouldn't throw 12, 13 speeds, but I really want to throw drivers. So let me put a bunch of 10 and 11 speeds in and see what sticks. And hey, you might be in a phase where you're just trying to figure out what you like, which is fine too. But I think that like the mid range and drivers, I think I'd like to see like an overstable 7 speed probably. But it sounds like you're probably jumping up to 10s. So other than that, though, I don't have a lot of feedback. Just like the drivers, there's a lot going on there.
Sick. Well, that, guys, is our speed in the bags. We say speed in the bags. Took us about 20 minutes. So,
not so speedy.
If you guys enjoyed that segment, let us know.
Yeah.
And if you didn't enjoy that segment,
then I'm sorry.
Yeah, let us know. I think we're going to keep trying this for a couple episodes, and we will, on episode 156, Brad threw out this idea. You want to tell them about your idea for episode 156, what we'll do for the whole episode?
156 is going to be our 3-year anniversary episode. So thank you all for sticking around that long. If you're new, come along for the ride. But 156, I think would be very funny to do a roast my bag episode, where if you are brave enough, you throw, and you can start putting them in the chat now. You can say, or the comments now. You can say, "Hey, I'd like it to be considered for the speed recommendation or roast my bag," and then put your username for either one of those. And if you want to be in both, that's fine too. Just put it in the comments, the YouTube comments. And if you're not over there, we're almost at 2,000 subs, guys. So please jump over there and give it a like. We really appreciate that. It means a lot to us, especially on the back end. But yeah, roast my bag. We'll get on there, and me and Robbie are we're gonna tear them apart. We might make fun. We might do a little joking. So if you're in for that, let us know in the comments and put in your username on Disc RPM. And make sure you're part of the In the Bag community.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a good time.
It'll be fun.
And we're going to move the dream would be, guys, is that we have like a good amount of them so that we can, we'll move a little faster than we just did there. So I think it's just going to be like,
it'll be a quick fire. Like, hey, here's username. Like Q already said, roast my bag. We'll say, all right, Q, we'll take one look. We're like, hey, you probably think this, and I bet you're this, silly head. And then we go on to the next one. So it'll be rapid fire.
Yeah, I think setting timer, you cannot go more than 60 seconds on any one bag
roast.
And after that, we just bang. Like we're slapping mutes down on each other.
Exactly.
Just bang.
Yeah. And I'll say this too. I'll volunteer. I'm not going to volunteer you, Robbie, but I'm sure you're fine with it. I think we'll make sure mine and your bags are updated for that. And then in the comments of that episode, I think let the chat roast our bags.
Oh, for sure. That'd be awesome. Awesome. So, speaking of awesome, we have some fantastic questions for today's episode, starting with John. Why should you throw multiple manufacturers? When I started playing, I threw up to 6 different manufacturers and always started second guessing. Did I have the right disc for the slot? Decided to go with one manufacturer to simplify the disc choices, and I feel like it's given me more confidence in my bag, forced me to trust each slot. Plus, it's made comparing disc easier because the flight numbers that are using are all on the same baseline. I want to start with this question because, Brad, at one point in my life, I have been a brand loyalist, and it was when I was on Team Innova. So that's kind of requires you to do that to a degree. So I have some thoughts here, but I never was the passionate fan from the get-go of, oh, I want to lean into one manufacturer, one option. So, but I know you were there, Brad, at the beginning, but now you're in the multiple manufacturers. So you want to give and you've kind of talked about this before in previous episodes, but you want to give kind of your rundown on why throw multiple, or I do love that benefit of comparing the flight numbers. I think that is like huge. That may be one of the only benefits.
Yeah, I truly think the only reason you should ever throw one manufacturer is you're either A, sponsored by them, or B, you're trying to be sponsored by them. Or I'll even add a third one, because I think this is a good point. If you're really just trying to improve and you're really finding an issue and it's really making you like stumble by having different flight numbers and what's going on. But realistically, at the end of the day, you could go wipe the stamp and flight numbers off all those discs and go throw them in the field and assign your own flight numbers, because that's what really matters. I don't care what the disc says, because they're all going to fly differently based on your arm speed, your elevation, the conditions outside, your release angle. Like, really the variables are mainly on you as the player, not necessarily the disc per se. They all should be relative. Like, they should do kind of like this thing for you. And then if they don't, then maybe like reevaluate how you're playing or throwing or whatever. But yeah, if those are the things you're really trying to do, I think that's fine. But I just don't see any other benefit. And then I'm also going to say, this might be a little bit of a hot take, I think we're slowly seeing the age of like, you're going to have your like top like 20, 30, 40 pros, one manufacturer sponsor. But I think to get up to that point, you're going to see a lot more people having open bags, because I think there's just too many good discs, and like the flight number example, like a T-Bird and a Grackle fly pretty much the same, but I love how the Grackle feels way more than the T-Bird. So I'm just more comfortable. I don't even care. Like, call it disc X and disc Y. Like, I just want what's comfortable for me to throw and has a better flight for me. And I think there's a lot more opportunity to find that disc. Like, I love Discraft. Like, don't get me wrong, they were that manufacturer for me, but they only have so many discs. And if I don't like, we were just talking about the other day, if I don't like, let's just say like Meteor or Soul, which I don't really, I don't have a lot of other options there. No. So like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm going to throw things I don't really like. So should I force myself to like it, or why not just throw like an Origin that I like? Yeah. You know, there are too many. Yeah. You're limiting yourself so much by doing one manufacturer, because Discraft shouldn't make a ton of those discs. They need to make other discs, right? So you instead of having like two understable options, if I open my mind up to every manufacturer, now I have like 30 options. And now I think where people mess up is like, oh, well, now I have 30 options, I have to do all 30 options. No, pick a couple, figure out what you like and dislike first. By throwing the Meteor, what I don't like about the Meteor is it feels a little big, and truthfully, if I'm being honest, it doesn't stay, like, it's a little bigger than the other discs in my bag, and it makes my disc sit weird, and I hate that. And that seems very sad, but that's a reason. So I know that I want that's why I like the Origin. It feels more like a mid-range to me. It doesn't feel super wide, and I like the flight. But I didn't know that until I compared it and said, what do I really not like? I think the same thing about putting putters. Like, inside the circle, I think all putting putters are relatively the same. It's more about what you like, what you don't like, and you need to identify that before you try 100 putters and get frustrated.
Yeah. I think that is such great wisdom on, like, over forcing a disc, trying to make it work. Like,
there's just no need.
There's no company out there that has the best disc in every slot. Like, it's the reality. And obviously even that statement is subjective in itself, but I think even if you polled the community, there are so many people that would tell you Yeah, like I look at MVP, the hottest company in disc golf. One of, I would say MVP and Discraft, the two hottest companies in
Fair.
disc golf right now. Innova probably still has the market share because they're Innova and they don't have to do anything, and we're all just waiting on their. No, I'm just kidding. We're not waiting on their downfall, but they are definitely not what they used to be, right? So if we look at the two hottest companies, MVP and Discraft, and we say, okay, who's got the better throwing putters? MVP, check, done. Who's got the better mid ranges? This is where I think some people are going to start having a little debate, but I think we got to give the nod probably to MVP, just in terms of you've got the Hex, you have the understable options in the uplink, you have the overstable options. People love the Pyro.
Reactor.
The balance is getting a bunch of hype. But in the Discraft lineup, the Buzz is just, it is the giant because it is the Titan. And it will always will be. And there's a reason for that. People love or they hate the Buzz, but you know what? You know it. You know what it feels like. So it's their fairways. And like already we have debate on one side or the other. So there are Discraft loyalists that are going to say that. And there are people who don't really love either company who are going to have opinions on this. So you just like, as fun as the Hex is, as someone who recently threw them side by side, a Hex and a Buzz are not the same disc. And for you to jump from the Hex to the Balance, which is sort of what you have to do in that lineup, or the Hex to the Reactor, there is this there is a little bit of a gap there. And that's where you can find inside of Discraft's lineup, there are just a little more options when you go to the Drone or the Swarm or the Wasp, right? Like there's just the Buzz OS.
Yeah.
That slot is so full for them that you're going to find the right disc, whereas MVP just isn't there yet.
Yeah, and also just think about this too. I mean, Discraft, they manufacture DGA and now Thought Space, and then you have obviously MVP with all the other molds, all the other manufacturers basically. But no, like you have your Mints and you did have your Thought Spaces. Those manufacture, and I mean. Innova and Millennium, we just talked about Millennium earlier, right? And then you have House of Discs, you could think of that as one, and then you have 5 different ones there. So, I mean, realistically, if you want to say, I want to be in the same house, I think that's even fine, because you might find what you need there.
Yeah, and then you get that plastic comfortability. Yeah. I think that's another, the huge perk is that, oh man, I love how Z plastic feels. Okay, cool. You're going to find Z plastic in DGA. You're going to find it and you do get that different molds. Like as someone who loves the ringer top zone, I'm actually so happy that it ended up where it ended, because I think inside the Discraft lineup, it just gets lost and turns into a ledgestone option that shows up once every 4 to 5 years. And you're like, oh, it's a sick run. Cool. I'm glad that the Vessel is going to have this focus. And very, very pumped. TSA, if you're listening, hook a brother up. We will. James Proctor can push it, and so can Robbie.
That's what I hear.
We will.
James
we'll
Proctor,
have a good time with it. Speaking of having a good time, let's head on to this is a guy who got a shout out for his username or his submission name. Missile Masher.
Missile Masher.
I'm an A30 rated player. I have my first tournament of the year next month. I typically would play with a full bag of 18 discs, but that hasn't typically worked for me in tournaments. This time I want to play with a Satchel to reduce the amount of decisions I have to make. What would 7 discs, excluding the putter, should I look to have packed? I primarily have a right-hand forehand with 270 feet accurate, a 220-foot right-hand backhand, and then 160-foot left-hand backhand for approaches. So 270-foot forehand, 220-foot backhand. He's packing 7 discs. Let's tag team this.
Okay.
And work through it. So he's putting putter, doesn't count for this. So that's going to be the 8th disc in the Satchel.
Okay. 7.
So, you want to start fast or slow?
Slow.
Okay. How many discs do we want to allot to this?
All right. So if we're doing 7, I think we need 2 putters.
Okay.
An approach disc, 2 mid ranges, 2 fairways. And I'm willing to give up a fairway to a mid-range if you'd like.
2 putters, 2 approaches, or 2 putters, 2 mid ranges, 2 fairways. Yeah, I think that's fine because he's got a forehand, so we're going to need some speed. Not like tons of speed, but I do think that I like that double forehand or that double fairway option. Let's see. Okay, so putters, you're thinking a like neutral to overstay, like a putter that has some finish, and then a flippy putter.
Yeah,
or
I think so, and I think Eclipse Proxy.
Eclipse Proxy. Okay, I like that. I like that for the straight or the
for
flippy?
The straight, because I mean Eclipse Proxy out like off the shelf for someone who's throwing backhand 220 is probably going to be straight with a little finish, to be honest, in my experience.
For sure.
And then I think you can also forehand that disc if you need a little bit of turn.
Okay.
So I like that. What
Yeah.
do you think for understable for this for Missile Masher?
Yeah, understable putter. It sounds funny. I'm actually gonna go with like a fierce.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
I
Smooth,
like the
yeah.
easy turn of a fierce. I did a video one time comparing the fierce and the pure, and I just feel like the pure is going to be too close to the proxy here. So I want that like guaranteed understability. And that's where I think the fierce is going to give you some turnover options for your approaches. If we aren't going fierce, the other option I would go is the watt. But I just don't want to do like an all MVP bag type deal. But I think the watt was one of the first ones that I thought about as this could go in the bag. It could fill a lot of good slots.
Can we switch the proxy for the watt? I think the watt's a better pick.
Okay. So if we go watt, do you want to go watt and then maybe like something with a little more stability to it, like a Luna?
I like watt Luna combo.
Because the Luna goes sneaky far, and I'm thinking for someone that's throwing 220, it will have some fade.
Glide and some fade. And then, the watt is just the straightest disc I've ever seen. Like, it's good. Very good. And, like, you can turn it if you want to pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Watt Premium Luna.
Yep. And then overstable putt and approach, hitting them with the classic. Zone all day. So I think that's a great choice. And then mid ranges. So mid ranges, we need. I mean, are we putting in the in the bag classic?
I think we gotta go uplink, and then.
I got a sneaky one.
Go ahead. I think mine was a little bit of a hot take, maybe. But what's yours, Robbie?
EMAC Truth.
Okay, I was going Quake.
Okay, a little more overstable. I think at 270 foot forehand, I think that a difference that he's going to see between a zone and a Quake on forehand is going to be minimal. And I'm just thinking that we're going to be using that zone a lot, which is why I wanted to make sure that we went zone, not pig or something like that, so that it had the like you can put some juice in it, give it the beans, and it's still going to hold.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I think the EMAC Truth's a great call. Enough stability.
Yeah, and you can forehand it straight.
Right. Enough stability, but not super overstable. And then uplink classic.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get some distance on your backhand with the uplink, and even be able to turn it. So you have kind of like all areas of the spectrum covered there.
Yeah. And you can see that we're trying to, on some of these we're covering an extreme, on others we wanted to be much more neutral. If you're taking 7 discs, I think neutral, you can approach it either way, but you're going to want 1 or 2 neutral discs, and then you can go extremes, or you just want a lot of neutral discs with a few extremes. Fairway drivers.
Okay. I like, I almost said Firebird.
My mind was on
because
Firebird.
I don't have anything super overstable for get out of jail kind of moves or wind.
Yep. Yeah, wind. Depending on if he's in the woods, the ability to get, and he's playing shorts, so it is like that reliable Hyzer shot.
That's great.
nothing like being able to just push a forehand Firebird out there.
Yeah, with 270 feet of accurate forehand, you're fine with a Firebird. It's very usable for you.
Yeah, I think it's a great choice.
The neutral, I mean, I got to go S-Line FD. I'm a little biased, though, so you let me know what you think on fairway, Robbie.
Yeah, he throws 220 feet on backhand, so I don't see him necessarily forehanding an S-Line FD that often. I mean, he could, but I just think it's a little too neutral for a comfortable forehand, because you're like...
I guess I was thinking backhand,
right.
like if he needs a... But you think he's just going mid-range if he needs a backhand tee shot?
Yeah, like I'm trying to think, if I'm throwing 220 feet, am I seeing
That's
a
true.
dramatic
That's
difference between me throwing because what it was, an EMAC Truth or this S-Line FD? I would in fact say the S-Line FD is going to get a little more squirrely
That's
on
true.
me.
Okay, can I throw a sneaky one then? One of my favorite forehand discs of all time is the Lift.
Yeah, I think that's fun. Yeah, like a little, give it some juice in case there's like a longer
Flips
hole,
up.
and that way you can put some flip up on it. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great choice.
I love that. I've kind of moved away from the Lift on my forehand because realistically, I'm getting enough power that I've got some beat-in Raptors that are like kind of flipping up but still staying overstable for me, and also the E-Duke I really like to forehand now too, which gives me that flip up and turn before it fades. But I still keep that my Mandalorian Lift in my side pocket of my Pro Pioneer, and just in case, if I'm just not feeling it that day, I'm gonna go grab that disc. So I think it's a fun disc.
Okay, cool. Well, there you go. Missile Masher, we're talking Watt, Luna, Zone, EMAC Truth, Uplink, Lift, Firebird.
Love it.
Bang. There are your 7. Joe Keller asks, I was listening to the episode and had the segment for the guy that keeps listening to cicadas, RIP Ryan. I have the same problem, but it's the Neo FD Nightstone. I love the C-Line FD, and the Neo is a perfect complement. Unfortunately, I'm not a fan of S-Line. I threw that disc a ton, which increases probability of getting lost. I'd love to get a stock disc that's close from any manufacturer. Trilogy makes the most sense, but I'm open to anything. So, Brad, coming to you. Any suggestions on a disc to replace the Neo FD?
Ooh, and they don't like S-Line? First of all, what's wrong with you?
So I'm thinking, if you're trying to go outside, I think that if you were to say, I'm going outside of Discmania,
then you want a Brave.
There you go. I actually am so with you on that. The Brave, one of my moderators in the Birdie Fam, Steven, he is a Trilogy diehard, and he, for a long time he's starting to convert a little bit, but when the Brave came out, he was like, bro, this is the best disc ever. All about it. And I feel like the Brave just caught no traction with the disc golf community, and I don't know how. That disc is filthy good. It's so incredible. Easy stand up, but not going to like burn over on you. I think to me, it flies like what a lot of people advertise S-Line FDs to fly like.
Yeah, I thought that when we threw it for the Warehouse Guys Throw Disc So You Don't Have To segment, it just flipped up immediately, and I was like, oh, this is dangerous to my FD. So dangerous. I had to like resist throwing it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think the Brave is a great choice, and still keeps you inside the Trilogy house, which we talked about with John.
In the house.
So, yeah. Craig, does someone with a slow arm speed, noodle arm, have any business throwing 180-gram mid-range discs? Would those molds and lightweights be better? Would it be best to stick with one weight for all mid-ranges bagged?
So, can I give...
Do you ever bag 180-gram mid-ranges, Brad? Do you even pay attention to the weight on your mid-ranges?
No. And that was my exact comment was going to be like, I don't even know that really matters. I was convinced for a long time on the weight thing. And as far as I'm just not convinced anymore. I think it has more to do with like stability and like the environment you're playing, less like your arm speed and like the stability of the disc. Now, caveat being like, obviously if I throw a 150-gram trail and a 175 gram trail, there's going to be some difference there. But I'm not so convinced that it's going to make that huge of a difference, especially if you're not throwing more than 375, 400 feet. I think once you get to that level of power, it probably matters. But for us down here in the 325 house, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, nose angle is so much more important. Yeah.
Can I say this too? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I also think, mentally speaking, I think people, when I say people, I'm included in this statement. When I throw a quote unquote lightweight disc, it's more flippy for me because I think I throw it. I think I need to throw it harder, and I don't know why that is, but I'm like, oh, this should be flippy. So when I throw it harder. I'm like, this should be flippier. I should throw it farther, and I throw it harder than I normally do. I throw it on more ante than I normally do because I'm doing bad form and I'm pulling it and grip locking it. So it is more flippy, but it's not the disc, it's me. So that's how I feel.
Yeah. Where I think, Craig, I think that weight really messes with people on mid-ranges is when you want a certain flight out of a disc, 180 gram version of that disc. If that flight has any characteristics of like what an understable disc would do, 180 gram mid-range most often is not going to demonstrate that. The best example I can give is there was a run that we did, was when I first signed with Foundation. We ran fission hexes. These things are gorgeous. They were like when Foundation initially started having the swirly, or not Foundation, when MVP started having the swirly overmolds.
It's this run. This is not the Foundation one, but this is the same run, came in the same time as those discs.
Yeah. Yeah. So when fission hexes like had just become available, we could do custom orders. Yeah, like it's, so they started having these swirly rims on them. And I remember it was like, here's how I know like why it's such a vivid memory. I was so new to Foundation that I was still hesitant to be like, hey guys, could I get one of those? Like, is that possible? And Brad still gets on to me because there are times where I just still am not comfortable asking that question.
Yeah, and I try to send them to you. Like, it's fine. No, I don't need that. It's not about the need, Robbie.
So, yeah, welcome to Robbie C's world. So I asked for two because I was so fascinated by this, but I asked for one that was 180 grams and I asked for one that was 171. And I knew that people describe the fission hex specifically as this disc is going to stand up and fly straight. Like it's just going to stand up, fly super straight. And I had watched Hunter throw it. And I was like, this is going to be it. And my 180 gram fission hex, I swear, I threw that thing directly into trees to try to get it to season, and it still wouldn't stand all the way up. And I knew that I had the arm speed to do that. My 171 gram disc did. Now, if I wasn't trying to get the stand-up flight out of that, I don't think that 180 grams really makes that much of a difference. But because I wanted the understable side, that's where I think it matters. So if you're throwing a 180 gram Quake, that is going to be 180 grams. It's still going to be a Quake at the end of the day. If I'm trying to throw a 180 gram Detour, then maybe I don't want a max weight Detour unless, like Brad said, I throw a 375, 400, and then I want it to not be as, quote, flippy. So, yeah, I don't think it makes, but I don't think that it makes a huge difference. But even as Brad mentioned in that, like, when I throw a lighter weight disc, I throw it differently. The same thing can happen. So if you're having that mental struggle, then it's okay to, like, bag the heavier disc. So. And
I think for me, a heavier disc makes me feel like I can throw it harder. I don't know. Again, none of that is really scientific. That's feel.
Yeah. Okay, so this one I think is a fascinating question, Brad, is from Daniel. I get similar distance on my forehand with anti-flex shots with my Quake and my Scepter. Scepter is a Firebird. Should I still bag both? If so, when would you throw one versus the other? If not, which gets the boot and why? Similar distance, Quake and Scepter. Why should you bag both? I think, Brad, you have both in your bag, like of that slot. And I know I do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on why one
I
or
feel
the
like
other.
I say this. I feel like I say this a lot, by the way. And again, I hope it's accurate. But no, I think my first question would be like, are you throwing these both for other shots too? I think that's imperative. Because if you're like, oh, I throw the Quake for several different shots and the Scepter I only throw for that shot, I think maybe the Scepter gets the boot. But I think keep both of them because it's all about what you want the disc. I think just now in me trying to grow and just like score a little bit better, I'm thinking more about like what happens after the disc comes out of my hand and also what happens when the disc hits the ground. And I think that just matters a lot. The Quake is going to react way differently on the ground than the Scepter is. And I also am probably throwing the Scepter type disc a little harder than I am my Quake to get the same distance because I am seeing the distance gap start happening between mids fairways distance now. There is noticeable difference. And I can throw my Quake as far as I can throw a Raptor, but I don't have to throw the Quake nearly as hard as I do the Raptor to get that far, right? So I think it's about ground play. It's like, I don't know. I also I think it's really more about ground play and then also that like flex shot. Like for me, my Quake is going to take a little bit longer to get back right than my my Raptor, which I would compare to the Scepter in this example. And I think that matters too. Like, do I want like a long anti-flex or do I want like a big like horseshoe shape or do I want like more of like a smoothed out S shape? So that and then how it hits the ground. So I think keep them. I think keep them both as long as you're throwing them for other shots too. I say keep them both.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how on the one disc that I feel like people always talk about, okay, what does it do when it hits the ground? Is your overstable putt and approach disc.
Yep.
Like, oh, I love the Pig because it hits the ground and it just sticks. That R Pro plastic grabs the ground. It feels great, all that, right? And then other people are like, I love the Pig because when the Pig hits the ground, it's like a pig sliding around on ice. And I love that it gets the major skips. So it is funny to me how like that's not even really consistent across most people that throw the same disc. But regardless, we have reasons that we love a disc. So as I'm thinking about this, ground play matters so much. When you really start seeing your game take things to a new height, or when you start paying attention to the subtle wind and how it's affecting the shot and not giving too much credit or strength to the wind for your mental. For instance, Gannon was getting bodied mentally by the wind halfway through the last round of Northwest Disc Golf Championships this past weekend. And then finally he was just like, nah, stop. Like, just throw the shot, dude. Just throw the shot. And lo and behold, what happened? Right? So I think that like that matters, but ground play is 100% why I think you need both of these. Like I have a very overstable 9-speed in my bag that is I throw the Felon instead of the Scepter, and I have a really overstable one. And it is there solely for its crazy overstability because of how that reacts on the ground. I throw more if I have to, like we're playing the spin game. What is it? Chip lock? No, not chip locked. Crazy Caddy. And I have to throw a skip shot. That disc is probably getting the call because it's so overstable that it just flare skips. So yeah, I think that thinking about what the ground play is going to do is massive. Am I throwing in a soft ground? Because I can get a Spike Hyzer and I get a Tombstone out of a 9-speed. Tombstoning a Quake?
Good.
I don't know that I've ever seen it.
Into some mud.
Other than like throwing it into a swamp.
Right.
Just right. And then it's not a Tombstone. It's just
and that's where
sunk.
Some of the strokes get picked up in this type of like this like nuance a little bit, because if I throw that Quake and it skips, maybe I hit like right by the basket where I'm aiming and I skip 20 feet versus I hit the same spot with like the Scepter and I skip 50 feet. My probability of making that birdie is way higher at 20 feet than it is at 50 feet. Crazy higher. So,
and let's be realistic. Let's not even talk about birdies.
Par.
Let's talk about like, I'm trying to save par. So I'm choosing between the Scepter and the Quake on this approach. I have a terrible scramble, or not a terrible scramble. I have a terrible drive, puts me in a terrible spot, and I throw this Hail Mary quake, and it skips to 20 feet, and I bang that putt, save the par. I'm feeling amazing. I threw the same shot with a scepter, and I skip to 50, and then I take the bogey, but I hit right by the basket.
Now you're doubting your drives and your approach shots.
Yeah. So now if I have bad drive, like if I throw a great scramble shot, I'm like, oh, sick. I actually can't get to bad places today. Yeah. And that just takes so much pressure off of your drives. Yeah. It's disc choice. Brad nailed it. Disc choice is so monumental for that mental. Monumental for the mental. Ooh, that rhymed. Unintentional. Okay, so let's go one more question, Brad, and then we'll pass off, because I think that this is a great question to start off with.
Yeah,
next
from the
week,
Caddy in Kalamazoo.
Caddy.
I love the alias.
Yeah. So this is from an unknown question asker, but I have a bit of a recurring theme the last handful of rounds I played. The theme usually goes front nine. I get almost all pars with a birdie or bogey thrown in there, and then the back nine getting torpedoed and wrecked by mostly bogeys and maybe a double bogey in the mix. Question: besides the bad shots that happen, what are the other possibilities that might be occurring, and what is the way forward?
I have so many questions about that. Are we talking about the same course, or are we talking about like any course you play? I think that matters.
Yep.
Because the front nine may just be like cater a little bit more to your game.
May actually be not the scoring nine. Yeah.
And then the back may not be as easy. It may not cater to you. Maybe like it's a lot of like forehands, and you're not a great forehand player. I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely possible.
So I think that's, if it's the same course, maybe evaluate like,
where am I supposed to be picking up strokes?
Yeah, and what is the designer wanting me to throw here? I think that's really important. I didn't really thought a ton about that until last year at Worlds, when I heard like pros talking about it and stuff. And you hear every once in a while on like coverage or practice rounds, but what the designer's trying to do here. And we talked about this a couple episodes ago. I think that's just like really important. Like, what is the intended way I'm supposed to get a par or a birdie here? What strength should I have? What's it trying to call out from my bag? I don't know. I don't know how long you've been playing. Does it say? No, it doesn't say. Are you pretty new? Do you not play often? Is it a stamina thing? That
is one of my first thoughts, was that it could be a stamina thing. But I think a lot of people, Brad, go to physical stamina like as their first answer for that. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, I'm just out of shape. So then I need to work on that. I need to work on that for so many aspects of my life. So I need to figure that out. Like, sure. But I think people low key just pay no attention to mental stamina.
True.
Like, there is just times, and Brad, you've said before on the podcast, like, hey, might have some ADHD in there.
Oh,
and
not
so
might.
like
Diagnosed.
I can imagine for someone with ADHD having to, like, especially if you're playing, because he's not saying if he's playing solo rounds or anything like that, right? Like a solo round probably is even harder, because at least if you and I are out there, you can sort of have the bounce back and forth between of like, oh, we're having a conversation. Okay, lock in, make the putt, go do something else. Like, right? Like, there is that freedom. If you're by yourself trying to gather your thoughts, when you get to the back nine, you're tired because you've just been focusing on this same thing, and you have no one to distract you between shots. So you're just locked in, focused. If you're playing tournament rounds, bro, you go from suddenly it takes me 45 minutes to an hour to play a casual round to, oh, it took me 2.5 hours to play this 18-hole round. That's a lot of disc golf. Like, mental fatigue is so real for keeping your shots dialed, keeping your shots focused. Like,
so for me, like, I don't play solo a lot because it's not calming for me, because it's just like me and discs, and I'm thinking about 1,000 other things than playing disc golf. I love playing disc golf with my family more than anything. I will say it is the hardest disc golf for me to play, because my sons are like excited. They're asking me questions. I'm trying to like lift them up, lift my wife up, give them compliments, like be in the moment and present. And I cannot focus to save my life. My worst rounds are when I'm playing with my family, but they're also my best rounds, mentally.
Yeah.
Worst scoring rounds, best fun rounds. So that's hard. Tournaments are really hard for me for that exact reason. I can't. My wife would tell you, I'm often like a little late to things because I hate being early, because sitting and waiting is like torture for me. So playing tournaments are hard, especially if they're ones that get backed up and you have to wait. I might as well just add 10 strokes, because I'm just going to get very distracted and not focused. But I think mental stamina is probably there. And even, physical stamina, if you're carrying a bag that's 20 pounds and you're walking through and it's a physically demanding course, but also if your body's just not used to the throwing motion a lot, I will say, when I haven't played disc golf in a while, like after 18 holes, I'm like, man, I can tell I haven't played disc golf for a minute. Like those muscles are getting used. I keep active with other like sports, so it's not so bad. But I know when I've been out with my broken foot from jiu-jitsu and from disc golf, just even playing a casual round with the family, I was like, man, okay, my shoulder is like getting real tight here. And I think when you're, I don't know. I think that's valuable too. It just depends how long you're playing, what course you're playing. Are you playing the same course? Also, even if you're playing for fun, and obviously it seems like you care about your score, if you're playing the same course all the time, have a plan for that course and be honest with yourself and say, okay, hole 1 through 9, I'm getting pars on most of them and a birdie or bogey. What is my plan? What score should I be out at the end of this 9? When can I like take advantage and score? And let's focus on those. And what holes are par holes for me? Then make them par holes, and then maybe you won't get the bogeys. And then the back 9, if you're getting double and triple bogeys or bogeys and double bogeys, look at the holes and say, okay, what ones are pars? Are they all pars?
Yeah.
Am I just trying to score on the front and then everything's a par for me on the back? Like, you care about the score, whether you like think you do or not. You care about the score. So have a plan like you were playing a tournament, and just that's probably a way to like go better. And just like now every time, because even like the front 9, you're kind of talking like, I get almost all pars. Well, maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe it's just the plan.
Yeah.
And then if you get a birdie on accident on one of those, that's like now a big positive, not just a all bummer, I got a par. And then the back 9, if you're like, okay, this is a double bogey for me hole, I know I'm going to get double bogey on this hole, and you start working toward that bogey. So I think if you care about the score, whether it's a sanctioned round or a tournament or a league or just you playing solo, like have a plan.
Yeah. You want to know one of the people in our life, Brad, that I think is one of the absolute legends at this. And I wish I could take like some credit for it because we just talked about it so much together. But I think he just like embodied this principle of planning. And you're talking about like, what's the game plan and all that?
Yep.
Jason.
We 100% agree with you. I was going to say the same thing.
Like Jason, Falling Creek is a course that is wide open. It has some woods like scattered throughout it, but like really, if I were to call Falling Creek a wooded course, I would feel like I'm lying.
You would be lying, I think.
It is an open field that has woods sprinkled throughout, and you have some wooded greens. That's probably the best way to describe it. Some wooded greens and wooded tee shots.
Kind of feels golf
if there are
course-like.
woods, yeah, like it utilizes the features of the property to create obstacles when it should be just a wide open place. So, hole 2, when you hear Jason talk about hole 2, he's like, it's a bogey hole for me. I'm walking in knowing that if I play and throw my good shots, a bogey is what I'm going to take. It's going to take 2 amazing shots. So he walks in with no pressure on that hole and then often takes the bogey. But it doesn't derail him because he's like, oh, yeah, there are just other birdies on the course where there are these easy par 4s that I know I can throw 2 good shots and get a birdie. So you just make your game plan accordingly. And I think that's where things shine. for a player is it's just a degree of planning. And I think that, like, if you want to plan how to attack your local course, that doesn't make you like a sweat. That doesn't make you a try hard. It just means you actually want to enjoy what you're doing, right? Like, why is that a bad thing for me to say, oh, this hobby that I'm going to spend my free time doing, I'd like to do it a little
nothing
better.
Wrong with that.
Yeah, like, you're thinking about it, because if you weren't thinking about it, random person, you wouldn't have submitted a question to a podcast asking about it.
Correct.
So, like,
we're giving you permission to care about your score.
Yeah. And you're not a bad person for doing it, right? Like, I see it all the time. Like, the amount of times that if you would just take a par, how many times you would win casual rounds, how many times you would win. You don't have to birdie every hole. You just can't bogey 6 of them. Easy peasy.
And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So, all that being said, that's going to wrap up the questions for today's episode. Brad, do you want to let the people know what? Do we have any new discs in the warehouse?
It's a little slow this week. We do have the Solar Flare 2 coming out, which is great. That's fun. We do have a restock of hexes, balances. We were just kind of talking about a balance earlier. And the hex, glitch, and envy. So we're restocking some of that new stuff. The stock trail, I think, too. It's not on my board, but I think stock trail might go up as well. Yeah, and really, that's really kind of all we got going on. We have some tour series. Latitude 64, I'm sorry, I was blanking. Like the Tour Brave, we were talking about the Brave tonight, is going up. There's some Opto Orbit Sapphires, which I think are going to be sneaky good. I haven't thrown one yet. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming out there. Just mainly check out Crazy Caddy. Our foundation jerseys are almost sold out, by the way. Black and white ones are out, maybe except like 1 or 2 of one size, and then we have some gold ones left, but grab those before you're gone. I don't know if we're going to reorder those anytime soon or we're going to do new colorways, but make sure you check those out. And I got word that Robbie's new custom stamp disc will be in next week. So we're pumped about that one. You all are going to be pumped. Good choices in these discs for sure.
I'm so stoked, dude. I'm so stoked.
Just make sure you're checking out Robbie's lessons. I know he's doing a few more. Thank you all for using there's a code in the description of the episode, so you can get some $5 off, I believe, Robbie, on your lessons, which are great. So if you have questions here that may be a little deeper, especially if you have them about form, you're like, oh, it's not really talking about form. That's a great one-on-one lesson to get with book with Robbie. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah. We break down footage of your throw. You submit it. You email your footage over to me. I pull it up on the iPad. I've got like multiple camera angles set up in the office, so we can we get you. A lot of people. The common question I get asked is, where should I do my lesson at? Like, should I be in a field? Should I be in my home office? And I would tell you that it's kind of up to you. Wherever you are, try to be somewhere where we can like get you to stand up and get in some positions. I did have someone once book a lesson for me from their bed, like they were just hanging out. That wasn't the most ideal, but that's fine. We still make it work. So, you don't have to have a net. You don't have to have the ability to throw. It's 30 minutes, so it zooms by. So we want to make sure that you are properly set up. Yeah. But it's a blast. We can work on forehand, backhand putting, mental, talk. We can, heck, that guy who's asking the questions, you can just email me pictures of your courses, and we can spend, if you've got a tournament coming up, we can spend 30 minutes just prepping for your tournament mentally. Like, let's talk game plan. Let's build you a game plan for that hole or that course. So lots of options, but lessons, we have a good time. So you find the lessons that work for you. You find discs that work for you, and you're like, these are good. What do you do with them, Brad?
Bag. We'll see you all next week for episode 152. Bye-bye.